just a robot.
Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here. You're probably wondering where Jar is right now. Well, he accidentally fell down a flight of stairs after I accidentally intentionally pushed him.
Long live the king.
Don't worry, he's fine. He's a robot, so he doesn't feel pain. I think. But he told me that if I didn't want him to press charges, I had to make sure his audience was entertained. So, here I am, in his better-than-mine set, talking to his larger-than-mine audience.
It's almost like this is exactly what I wanted.
Today we're going to be looking at the show Agretsuko. This is a show about a young Japanese woman named Retsuko who lives an ordinary Japanese life. She also happens to be an anthropomorphic red panda in a world filled with other anthropomorphic characters. Shady, the last 2 times you worked with Jar, you talked about BoJack Horseman, and now you're talking about Agretsuko? Are you a furry? Well, that's an interesting question, and the answer may surprise you. There are plenty of topics to talk about with Agretsuko, but today I've decided to look at one character in particular.
I'm gonna work in the accounting department starting today! My name's Anai!
Agretsuko is a show that heavily talks about dealing with other people. Anai is a character that Retsuko butted heads with, but eventually learned to see the value in. Despite there being many characters like this, Anai is one of the more unique ones in the show for me. The main reason being, unlike everybody else whom I've learned to love, once the arc with Anai was over, I still hated him. A quick summary for those of you who aren't caught up. Anai was first introduced in Season 2 as a new worker in Retsuko's office. Retsuko was assigned with training him on how to do everything, and she was pretty freaking nice on how she treated him.
You seemed a little bit nervous there, Anai. Answering the phone properly isn't a big deal. It's kind of adulting 101. How about you let me take the calls today?
But it's revealed that Anai has problems with being social. He gets incredibly anxious when talking to people and thus can't do some of the most basic tasks of his job.
What's up? It's Anai in the accounting department! I messed up, don't look at me!
The mindset also manifests in how he treats his co-workers. Instead of accepting that he needs to get better at stuff, like an adult, Anai freaks out and threatens anyone who criticizes him, like a child throwing a tantrum.
Yeah, but your messages were so serious.
I gave you a deadline!
Right.
Going forward, I record whenever we talk.
Anai also doesn't want to do more work than what's required of him.
Hey, Anai. I thought maybe you could input these for me?
Sorry, checking my email.
As a result, the work he's supposed to do often doesn't get done unless someone else does it. It gets to the point where no one wants to engage with him and everyone has to compensate for what he's doing. What winds up happening is that another character, Kaba, the hippo, shows how to communicate with him without triggering him.
It says that they bought some equipment, but the payments were late. Am I supposed to flag that as unpaid?
Very good. You're a quick learner.
Kaba is a motherly figure and thus naturally knows how to be encouraging, which is the only type of mindset Anai responds positively to. After a pep talk from Kaba, Anai becomes just another part of the office that everyone gets along with. From a storytelling perspective, what happens to Anai is not bad. In fact, like all of Agretsuko, it's pretty freaking amazing. Retsuko learns how to deal with people who are more sensitive than her in the same way that her boss had to.
Suddenly, they have to deal with being a working adult. There's no point dumping more stress onto a scared kid even if they deserve it. You gotta build up their confidence.
My issue comes from looking at the possible consequences of what happened. The person who needed to learn the lesson in the story was not Retsuko. Retsuko was being understandably nice. You might even argue she was being too nice. It's Anai's mindset that was causing problems.
And you're mad at me, because that's easier than taking responsibility.
While it's true that at the end of the situation, Anai is no longer an issue in the office, in the long run, this will most likely be a temporary fix. The root of Anai's problem is that he is overly sensitive and doesn't know how to properly interact with people.
The kids like that, they're weak. That's why they're afraid.
Asking an entire office to adjust to his sensitivity is unfair and unrealistic.
The trouble is, you can't control how somebody else takes what you say to them.
With the way Anai's situation is presented, it almost comes across as the show saying that what he did was okay and that other people just need to cater to him. In the real world, this is the kind of attitude that gets you fired. I know, I've seen it happen. You have to be able to adjust to whatever job you're going to, and yes, that does include knowing how to communicate. If you're unwilling to adapt to the job's requirements, then you're the problem, not the people around you. I know being an antisocial introvert is becoming more and more popular, but that's no excuse. If your job requires you to learn a certain skill in order to be good at it, you need to take it upon yourself to learn that skill. Anai doesn't learn any lessons. As a result, the next time he gets into a new environment, this same problem is going to happen. This type of mentality is only stable if you're going to run your own business, which admittedly Anai might do considering he already has a side hustle. But you know what ticks me off the most about Anai? He causes so much damage and he gets absolutely no punishment for it. I know that makes me seem incredibly petty, but I think my anger is justified since if he did get punished, he more likely would have learned the lesson he needed to. When you watch all the stuff Retsuko has to go through with Anai and you see how much chaos he brings to the office just because of his own insecurities, it doesn't feel enough to say, oh, he just stopped doing that. Someone doing something bad and simply being allowed to continue like nothing happened just feels wrong to me. I demand punishment. I demand retribution. I demand that this type of mentality be thought of as old-fashioned. There's too much hatred in the world and we should learn to forgive each other no matter what bad thing they do. Even if that bad thing is pushing someone down a flight of stairs. Isn't that right? Yeah, that's right. This has been Shady Doorags. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.
My eyes have seen the glory of the cleansing of YouTube, debunking SJWs and feminazis too. We criticize reactionists in hopes they get the boot, just to roll our marches on.